Good day class, I am Mr. Marvin M. Calanoc and I'm going to teach you the subject Philippine Politics and Governance, specifically the topic about the legislative branch. Before that, let me give you the objectives of this study. Number 1, at the end of the lesson, you will be able to identify the qualifications for an individual aspiring to become a senator or House of Representative. The next objective, assess the performance of the Philippine Congress. And the last objective, discuss the roles and responsibility of the Philippine Senate and the House of Representatives. Okay. So let's start with this discussion with this question. Does the President have the sole power to rule the country? Okay, so some of you will say yes, because the President was the highest official of the land. And some of you will say no. So if no, who rules with the President? Okay, the President was not the only one who have the sole power to rule the country. He needs a helping body, and the answer for that is the Senate and the House of Representatives. Okay, according to the 1987 Constitution, legislative power shall vested in the Congress of the Philippines, which shall consist of a Senate and the House of Representatives. It was mentioned to this article the two main body of the Congress. So let's start with the Senate. Okay? So what are the composition of Senate? Who are the people involved in the Senate? Okay? The Senate shall be composed of 24 senators who shall be elected at large by the qualified voters of the Philippines as may be provided by the law. This elected at large, which means it is a national level. Okay, so it might confuse that the number of senators is limited. Okay, so a number of senators must be limited. It was only 24 senators. So what is the reason, or what do you think the rationale for it? Okay? The reason why it was only elected 24 at large, because it intends to make a Senate a training ground for national leaders and possibly a springboard to the presidency. The feeling is that the senator having a national instinct or national thinking rather than district people will have broader outlook of the problems of the country, instead of being restricted by parochial or district views and the national interest. So that is why we elect only 24 senators, and the reason that is the springboard for, or a training ground for national, or for training ground in presidency. Senate is also considered the third highest official of the land or in the government after the president and the vice president. Senate is the only body that can concur with treaties and can try impeachment cases. The senators elect among themselves the officers who will lead to various offices of the body, such as the Senate President. The Senate President was the Senator Vicente Soto III. He was the highest official in the Senate, and he performs all over the session and ensures all orders in all proceedings. Okay, so who are the members, who are other members of the Senate? Senators also elect a Senate pro tempore. He performs the functions of the Senate President in case of his prolonged absence, incapacity, or removal from the office. And the other members of the Senate are supposed to be the majority floor leader and minority floor leaders. The majority floor leader elect the majority black elect the majority floor leader. On the other hand, the majority black, political black, elect the minority floor leader. These two officials work together in endorsing, analyzing, and evaluating proposed pieces of legislations in the Senate. So that is their function. Okay? So, what if someone would aspire to become a president? What are the qualifications to become a senator? Okay, let me correct. Aspire to become a senator rather than president. What are the qualifications or criteria in order for him to become a senator? Okay? Number one is he should be a natural-born Filipino. He must be able to read and write and at least 35 years old. A registered voter and a resident of the Philippines for not less than 2 years immediately preceding the day of election. As I was discussed in the executive branch of the government on our previous lesson, he should be a natural-born citizen, whereas his or her mother must be both Filipino, must be able to read and write for the reason of having democracy in the Philippines. Okay? At 35 years old, which means because as I have mentioned, it is a training ground for presidential elections. I mean to say, if you have to serve for at least 6 years, he may be 41 and he can run for a position of being a president. Okay? A registered voter and a resident of the Philippines for not less than 2 years. Okay. What is the term of office of the senator? Okay? The senator serves 6 years, 6-year terms. A maximum of 2 consecutive terms. But take note, the senators elected in election in 1992, the first 12 obtaining the highest number of votes shall serve for 6 years. Take note, the highest number of votes shall serve for 6 years and the remaining 12 for 3 years. So, those remaining 12 gathered only a lower percentage of vote. So, what does this mean? Okay? The senators or member of a House of Representatives and local officials first elected during 1992 will serve until June 1992 according to Section 2, Article 6. The reason why there are only 12 who will remain in the office, it is because the Senate has been described as the continuing institution. What does it mean? As it is not dissolved as an entity with each national election or change in the composition of its members. So that continuing institution, those law that has been passed by a national leaders, okay, it must have to continue, okay, so that it cannot dissolve the entity with its national election or change in the composition of its members. Okay, so that was the reason why there were remaining 12. Okay, let's go to the House of Representatives or a party list representative. The composition of this are not more than 250 unless otherwise fixed by law. 20% of whom must be a party list representative. Okay? A party list representative is also known as the sectoral congressman who represents labor unions, rights groups, and other organizations. Each city with a population of at least 250,000 should have one district representative. Okay? So, those who were from the province, cities, and metropolitan Manila, so those areas must have or should have a House of Representatives. Okay? So that is the composition. And the highest official of the House of Representatives is the Speaker of the House, what we call the Speaker of the House, and the current was Alan Peter Cayetano. Just like the Senate President, he also leads the HOR or the House of Representatives session and ensures all order in all proceedings. Okay? The Senate President and the Speaker of the House do not have fixed term and they may be replaced at any time at the pleasure of majority of all members of respective chambers. Okay, so they don't have a fixed term. Okay. The criteria or the qualification in order for someone to become a House of Representative, or what we call the congressman or the district representative, you should also be a natural-born Filipino citizen. It is requirement. At least 25 years old, able to read and write, a registered voter, and a resident for at least 1 year in the district where he or she shall be elected. Okay? So the age qualification, which might explain the relative impulsiveness of the HOR. So that is why the age qualification is lower. It is only 25 years old because of the relative impulsiveness, or because they have lots of members, 250 of them. Okay, each of them will represent the districts. So meaning to say they have relative impulsiveness within that structure. 4 and 5, except for the party list, this party list will represent the vulnerable sectors in the community. Should have not be a resident for at least 1 year or district where she shall be elected, or a registered voter only in the Philippines, but not necessarily on the area where he was being elected. Okay, the term of office of the House of Representatives. No members of the HOR shall serve for more than 3 consecutive terms. Like the senator, the members of HOR may not be re-elected any number of times, whereas the senator can serve for no more than 12 consecutive years. The HOR is limited to 3 terms, or the total of 9 consecutive years. So meaning to say that Senate has a long period of time to serve, but the House of Representatives only 9 consecutive years to serve. Okay. So what are the roles and responsibility of the Senate and the Congress? Number 1, they appoint the public officials. Okay. As I have discussed this on the previous lesson about the powers of the president should have the power of appointment. But the Congress may by law vested the appointment of other officers lower in the rank in the president alone, in the courts, or in the heads of department, agencies, and commission or boards. Okay? Next, the role of the responsibility of the Congress, they authorize limited powers for the president. The Congress, by a vote of 2/3 of both houses in a joint session assembled, voting separately, shall have the sole power to declare the existence of, declare the existence of state of war. Okay. Approve the budget, approve the government budget. What is this? Okay. So the House of Representatives and the Senate approve the government budget. Okay. The next powers, they undertake the projects under the CDF. CDF, also known as the Countrywide Development Fund, or the what we call the PDAF. So now that is the CDF. Okay. They propose, review, and adopt bills for enactment into. Okay, so they are about to make laws. They are about to review and propose bills, and they have to enact it or make it. Okay, they propose amendments to the Constitution. So whenever there is a change in the Constitution, the responsibility of it is in the Senate and the Congress. Okay, they allow for referenda or referendum. Referenda or referendum is what we call the power of the electorate to approve or reject a legislation through an election called for a purpose. Okay, so whenever there is a change for a law that has been passed by the Congress, they ask for the people or the electorate for the approval or reject it. Diba? So that is what we call the election for a purpose. And they may overturn a presidential veto. Okay, what is this? A presidential veto, the president may veto the laws that has been passed by the Senate and Congress or made by the Congress, but the House of Representatives may overturn a presidential veto by gathering a 2/3 of vote. If the president does not act on a proposed law submitted by the Congress, it will lapse into after 30 days of the receipt. Okay, so that is the overturn the presidential veto. So now, so those are the roles and the responsibility of the Senate, and we already now identify what are the qualifications in order for someone to become a member of a Senate or the House of Representatives. Now, for this activity, I want you to answer this. I want you to make an open letter. Construct a letter addressed to their respective congressman, or you as a student addressed to your respective congressman to air a particular concern. Then afterwards, answer the question, why do we need to assess the performance of the Congress? Okay? 10 points for relevance to the topic that I have discussed, 5 points for creativity, 5 points for neatness, for a total of 20 points. You are going to pass that on the day we're going to meet again. Thank you for listening, and goodbye, class.